Welcome to Brevard News, your home for real news in Brevard County. I'm Kevin Jeffrey, your moderator. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast as well as to follow us on Facebook. And welcome to the quote of the week. And this comes from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And notice what he says about politics. He says, in politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet that it was planned that way. And man, I have seen it over and over and over again. There are no accidents in politics. You can count on that. Welcome to this segment, and we're going to take a look into the Satellite Beach High School controversy, and I'm joined by Brevard News Titusville contributor Christopher Childs. And Chris, there's just a lot to unfold here. There's a lot that went on, and so you have a lot of information that is being tossed around. So last week we had the protest, the school and students protesting in favor of this teacher that was not fired, but her contract was just not renewed. So what do you know about the situation?
Yeah, I know that I just kind of what everyone else has heard, that a student was being called by a different name than what they were given by their parents, and the parents weren't advised of that they were addressing the child by that name. So that's my understanding, and of course, you know, Florida law says that you're supposed to notify the parent, and also the policies of the school system is that you're supposed to get a consent form in order to call them a different name.
So the question is what's going on here? So the assertion is that the parent should have known about this, and the parent, from what I understand, said that they knew nothing about what was going on. They had no clue about this. Some people think that this is odd that the parent doesn't know what's going on, but hey, I mean, there's a lot of things kids do that parents don't know is happening, right?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, we even when they're in the same house, I mean, you would have to be blind for some of the things, but I think you can't always catch everything. And I think as a teacher who sees a kid every day, you should probably be like, you know, I know this is a little different. At least let me check. Let me just send an email real quick and see what the parent thinks of this, and see if.
Well, you would think that would be a cursory thing that you would do.
Yeah.
Now, here's the law. The Florida law says this, and it's section 1000.071 under Florida statutes. It says it is illegal for teachers or school employees in public K-12 institutions to use a student's preferred personal title or pronouns if they do not correspond to the student's biological sex. The law states that an employee or contractor of a public K-12 educational institution may not provide to a student his or her preferred personal title or pronouns if such personal personal title or pronouns do not correspond to his or her sex. It's pretty cut and dried that this is what's happening here.
I think so, and if you want to think about it another way, I mean, the law is really about parental, you know, notification, or just that you know what's happening with your child. It's all about informing the parents and keeping the parents informed about your child. And just think that if you're someone who doesn't like Donald Trump and doesn't like any of his policies, and you're adamantly against anything about him, what if your child started going to a MAGA club? And wouldn't you want to be informed that your child is going to that MAGA club if you are adamantly against, you know, Donald Trump and his policies? I would think you'd want to be informed as a parent, and I think you should be informed. If your child is going to anything outside of the norm, doing anything outside the norm of going to school in a normal class, you should be informed as a parent. Kids can't give consent. They can't give consent. They are below the age of consent. So the only one who can do it is a parent or guardian. So you need to get consent from the parents.
So, and this raises a lot of issues. One, parental rights. Does the parent have right to make? And so here you have the issue is that the school is supposed to be preparing the kid to work in a career atmosphere that's going all the way back. That's what it was designed for, to prepare for the workforce.
Yeah.
Does the school have any right to prepare the kid from a moral point of view? And so it just seems like the schools have become a dumping ground for cultural and political issues. And the whole thing of the educational process has been completely lost.
Yeah, that's true.
Am I wrong?
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, because we are more concerned about the cultural issues than we are a kid getting an education. And if you look at the numbers, the education of the American student is at, what is it, 40th out
Yeah.
of your industrialized countries. It's very low, and yet it's just seemed like we've lost our way here.
Yeah, I mean, there are no classes at school other than in college that teach you about morals, unless you go to like a religious school. Public schools don't touch on any moral stuff. So you really, obviously, that's something that you want to leave up to the parents to do. In that case, unless you're a parent that chooses, I'm going to send them to this religious school that's not public school, and they teach a certain curriculum, and they teach about a certain religion, and that's where they want to get their moral teachings, supplement moral teaching, because you
But
still do that at home, obviously.
yeah, but at that point, the
Yeah,
parent has decided that
yeah,
this is what they want for their kid, is that
yep,
they want the kid to be able to have this moral upbringing. Now, the union responded, the Brevard Federation of Teachers responded with this statement. They said, "Today we stand in solidarity with a teacher in Brevard for the actions taken against her for calling a soon-to-be graduating high school senior by the name the student has been known for most of their high school career. We are shocked at the superintendent's heavy-handed decision to essentially terminate a veteran teacher who has inspired and advocated for her community, profession, and students for more than 12 years." Now, from what we understand, the parents are saying that there was this educator was involved, and that there may be more educators that were involved in this that has not been disciplined at this point in time, and that this was something that can be proven that they were involved in actually breaking the law here, as the law states.
I mean, I think that because I was the law, it was in 23. Was it
It
passed?
was
Yeah, enacted in
2023.
23. So if this was happening before the law went into effect, then after it went into effect, and anyone who was like, oh yeah, this kid goes by this other name, maybe we should check the file and see if there's a consent on file, which probably wasn't, since it was before the laws passed. Then if there's no consent on file, maybe we need to go get a consent. I mean, because if it's everyone knows about it at school, then you know that now this new law, and you want to make sure that you're on the side of the law, because no one's above the law.
Correct.
And so just go out and get a consent form. It'd be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Especially if you think that it's that you think that parents know already. What's the harm in going and asking the parent? You should be like, I just want to be on the side of the law, and since this is obvious that they've been going by this name for years, let's go ahead and get the consent of the parent, because it should be already known, and there shouldn't be any grief here.
There's a lot of things that kids do inconsistent with their parents. Now,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
known girls who were told they can't wear scantily clothing to school, but they will
Yeah.
take it to school, unbeknownst to their parents, and
Yeah.
will change their
Yeah,
clothing at
change.
school,
Yeah.
right? And their parents
Yeah.
have no clue about what's going on.
Right.
And so this is a big controversy. We're going to continue to stay on top of it and to keep you abreast of what's going on here. There's probably more to come with this. We're going to have a representative from the school board at some point in the future to talk about this, and we look forward to presenting that information to you. Welcome to this edition of Titusville, or as I shall say, as Titusville turns. That's what we'll call this. It's kind of like a soap opera, so we'll continue to look at it that way. And so first off the bat is the email situation. It's quiet as a church mouse on the email front. Why have we not heard anything about the 17,000 emails?
I think they filed a motion, and in part of that motion, they said that they're trying to protect the privacy of individuals and public records, which is kind of crazy. But I think they're waiting for a hearing on it, and there is a hearing scheduled for the 29th, April 29th.
Do you think that they will get a judge that will actually go against their own personnel file that says that no public employee has the presumption of having a private email?
I think that's an easy one that the judge will just bat down.
So then this is
quick.
just delay tactics.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're
That's
trying
all
to
they're
narrow the
doing.
scope, and they're trying to say, well, this is what our arguments are. So then they have that motion, and with the motion, then you don't have to comply, because you're like, I filed a motion on it. So, and then until the hearing.
So in the interim, are they doing Hillary Clinton and scrubbing the emails? Are they bleaching the emails? What are they doing?
I don't think they're doing that, but I think they probably, because the IT guys at least know what they are, so they're hoping that it somehow gets tailored down. But
Even if they did scrub the emails, there is a way to get them. And that's the thing. So it just looks weird. And everything that this city does, all the moves that they make,
Everything.
it's everything.
Everything.
The lack of
Everything.
transparency.
They just can't do things the right way. It just makes you want to beat your head against the wall. Why?
there's a lot to hide. I think they saw stuff and that's why that part of the motion was about trying to protect the privacy of some of the employees. Was they saw some stuff that was not flattering and that was probably embarrassing for some people because they were talking about the election and saying, I don't like so and so. Who knows? I don't know who they said it about, but they said it about somebody.
I'm sure your name is in there, Chris.
That's right. My name's right in there.
Your name's there.
I always consider that badge of honor, but I think they saw that, and that's probably one that when they put it as like the third thing in the motion, that's probably the real thing is why they filed the motion, because they're trying to hide it. They're trying not to be so obvious, because if it was the first thing, you'd be like, whoa, 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 but if we bury it a little bit and put it as the third or fourth one, then maybe we can sneak it by, but I don't think they're fooling anyone, and we caught that. So.
And perhaps the citizens can write the judge on this case and let them know that they want the transparency and they want to free all 17,700 plus emails.
Do you think that's going to happen still? What is your guess as to how this is going to turn out?
I think they're going to continue trying to use stalling tactics. They're going to continue trying to.
This is their MO, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen this in the Clean Water Act situation. They just stall and just keep pushing, trying to find the right judge to rule in their favor.
Yeah.
I think the difference, though, is the Constitution, and this one you have the right to speedy trial, and that's on Vicky's side. So you have the right to speedy trial, so they can't keep stalling it. Otherwise, the judge is going to say, look, she has the right to speedy trial, so she needs these records. You need to do it. Stop stalling. Stop. So if it was a civil case or something like that, then they could stall all they want. But with a criminal case, or I think it's a criminal case. Yeah, it's a criminal case. So with a criminal case, you have a constitutional right to a speedy trial. So they need to get those records, and they're public records. There's,
Nowhere but Titusville will this happen. Nowhere but Titusville. Board of Adjustments. So there's a hearing coming up on the 23rd.
April 23rd at 6 p.m. at City Hall in downtown Titusville. You can find City Hall. It's a really important meeting. We've put out a lot of information, and we will continue to put out information. It's about your comprehensive plan, and it's really important because your comprehensive plan serves like the United States Constitution does in some ways, where it is supposed to protect your community from overbuilding and certain things coming in. And so I think everyone, even if you are not a part of the community that's fighting for their particular backyard, they're fighting for all citizens in the city. And you should definitely show up and keep a very close eye to this, because it could change the dynamic of the future of your city.
So explain what a comprehensive plan is.
Well, I'm on P&Z, so I know a lot about the comp plan. And actually, when you do the comp plan is like a general direction of where you want to go as a city as far as building out things. And you have like guidelines like, we don't want a big, a shopping center put on local road and no access to a collector or arterial road, which just means
So when you say
a
collector,
bigger road, a
Okay.
road that can handle a lot of traffic,
Okay.
or like a commercial.
Okay.
So the comp plan is actually, so P&Z goes over any changes to the comp plan, goes through, and it's called comprehensive plan, goes to P&Z, then the city council. If everything is agreed to, then they have to send it off to a state, and the state has to certify it and say, yes, you can make these changes to your comp plan, because it's that important, because the comp plan can't go against state law, and it has to be something that it's fair to everybody as well.
So the developer in this situation is trying to circumvent that, correct? still?
Yes, they're trying to change the road so that way it fits their development.
They changed the definition of the road, then they won't have to go by the comp plan. Is that
It's
correct?
1.9.1 part of the comp plan that says that certain developments, commercial, has to be on a collector road or arterial road. And right now, I think it's what is that road called? No, just Demerit Drive.
Yeah.
It is a local road. It goes through a neighborhood. It's just a regular neighborhood. It's not even like Country Club or something, or Barna. It's not even like one of those.
Now,
It's
the
just a
video
regular
on your show with Vicki Conklin, and you could see from the picture that there was a garbage truck trying to make it down that road, and it couldn't do it. I mean, there was cars parked on both sides, and it wasn't able to do it. So the problem is that the neighborhood was a Royal Oak neighborhood, tried to actually, they paid $625, was it, to actually get a hearing on the fact that the city was going against the comprehensive plan, correct?
Correct.
They wouldn't even hear that argument.
No.
And they didn't hear it because of what? And the technicality was what?
She did not have standing. That Vicki Conklin, who brought it, did not have standing, even though she brought everyone with her that were like direct neighbors of the development. And they said, we want her to represent us in this matter. And even though they went all through that rigmarole and had everyone stand up and just say my name, my address, and yes, I want Vicki to represent me. And then the board voted on it and said, you don't have any standing. And so we're not even going to hear it.
And I think
Yeah.
it's important to point out that these same developers, and we've been seeing this unfold throughout the years, where they've been suing citizens who even use their yes, I call it slap suit, where they just use their freedom of speech to go up and express their opinions or not liking a development and why they don't like it. And somebody had gotten sued, and we put that on our site, $27 million. And so they wonder why citizens, it's a fear tactic is what they're doing. And they wonder why citizens are scared to stand up to developers and the powers that be. But Vicki Conklin in this community
Is undeterred.
is undeterred.
The guy, the developer, the lawyer for the developer at the last hearing claimed that he was in fear of his life because Titusville is dangerous. And he had to bring his own
Security
to the meeting. Again, this is why we say as Titusville turns, this is like a soap opera. You can't make this up. And so what do you think is going to happen here?
I think that they'll hear it now. There's been multiple people on city council that have said, hey, we need to be able to review their decisions, because that board actually makes decisions, and but a city council now wants to say, we want to review it. So I think they're feeling pressure from all over. So hopefully they'll at least give her, or give them a fair shot at a hearing, whether or not they go. So, because what really happened first was that the city staff just went ahead and administratively approved this development because they said, yeah, it meets the comp plan. But other people say, no, it does not meet the comp plan because you can't be on a local road, and this development.
And so they said that because of the definition of what they thought
a local road is.
A local road.
Yeah,
is.
And now city staff doesn't see it that way. So this is kind of unusual, because usually with the board, you go and say, hey, I think this ordinance is unfair, and I want to be able to put AstroTurf in my front yard, but the ordinance says I can't. So can I go ahead and put AstroTurf in my front yard, and it's just this one little piece? And that's when this board usually says, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. It's unusual for it to be a staff approved project and then someone say, hey, I don't think you should do that. So it's kind of even people on the board are like, we've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing because we've never had this.
Uncharted territory?
Yeah, for them. And but it's still the same thing. You're saying there's a decision that the city made. The city has an ordinance. We disagree with their decision, and we want a hearing on it. And, they see it as, well, anyone who's right next door or whatever should have maybe the right. And I don't even know if they think those are the people that are right people to come and bring the case. So they might say that you don't have standing even if you're living next door to it. Since you're not a property owner, you don't have right to go to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
So,
I don't
and
know.
this is a issue, and so going forward, and I want to warn you, as a citizen, that SB 1118, the Live Local Act, is on steroids, and the state legislatures, who are said they're conservative, which I don't see it, are trying to actually pass a bill at this moment in which they're going to make Live Local unbelievable. They won't have to go through the city anymore. The developers won't have to go through the county. They'll be able to build wherever they want to build. And if I would urge you to call Stan McLean, who is the fellow, one of the fellows that is pushing this bill, at 352-732-1249, and tell him to stop this nonsense. And it's just unbelievable. They're all in bed with the developers all the way up to the state line. It's just one of the most unbelievable things that I've seen. Now that brings us also, there's some other things that are going on in Titusville, and so they're looking for a city attorney. And so we've seen advertisements for a city attorney. What do you think is going to happen there?
I assume there's going to be a look. I don't know how they're going to do, because if anyone watches the city council meetings and sees how they're going, they might not want to take on this mess. They might say, "What's with all this stuff going on?"
Are they looking for a yes man?
They're looking for anyone who will take the job, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
There were a lot of comments about that because the city put out, we're searching for a city attorney, and a lot of comments were talking about the pay, and they were saying, "Oh, it looks like we have to pay our attorneys really good because of how much of a mess we're in." And but I would suspect that Chelsea Farrell, who's currently the city's assistant attorney, will try to apply for that position.
What do you think about her?
I just think that we need to be looking outside of the city and somebody that's not already embedded in all the mess that's already happening. I don't have an opinion one way or another about her. I've seen her at the Board of Adjustments and various meetings. But I do feel that she could be compromised because, once you start creating this really tight-knit network, and this is what we've seen time and time again, you don't see any accountability. You don't see friends holding friends accountable.
No one willing to call out the truth.
Correct.
At all. I mean, and I would have thought that one of the problems with the past city attorney is that he said nothing about Lao in the video. As the person responsible for the law, he should have said in a city council meeting, "This is not right.
But
we
the
cannot
city's
maintain this."
The city is his client, and he can't really hurt his clients.
Too is that the people in general are sick of those sitting by and being complicit in the things that are happening and unfolding, not just with Titusville and local government, but I think this goes all the way up. Yes, everywhere.
He could have actually advised his client to be forthcoming.
In private.
And
he could have done
told
it.
him in private,
He could have
"Hey,
done it.
You're not going to get away with this. You broke the law. Just admit it."
Yeah. He could have done that in private, but it's kind of hard to say that that he knew about everything that's going on. He could have found out about it just like we did afterwards, and they might just leave him out of stuff because they know that they can't get away with it.
So maybe he didn't know
it. I mean, he probably knew afterwards. Definitely, he knew afterwards, and he probably said behind closed doors, because that's protected, is you guys need to stop this. And just like the video came down, it's probably because he said, "You need to take that video down, or you might be going to jail." So and then because it came down like that. So as soon as
so you think that once it came down, then
it,
he felt like he was covered. He didn't have to tell them to actually come out and
not because if he finds out about it
anything
afterwards too, and now you just want to come back to Chelsea. On PNZ, she comes to our meetings. She's the attorney for our meetings, and I think she's a very honest person, and but she also was very loyal to the city attorney. So she has that loyalty thing. I don't know, in this case, if it's a good or bad thing, because if we do have a problem there, then we don't need someone who's going to, keep that going. But I think she's a good person, and I work with her, every other week, and I think she's a good person.
Yeah, I say clean house. Give somebody from the outside another chance to come in. Just clean house. Just absolutely clean it from the city council to the staff. Just clean house. It's just too much corruption going on. City manager, what do you think is happening there?
I think they're looking for candidates.
Right.
but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, it's still in process, and I think we'll learn more in the upcoming city council meetings. And I know that there are quite a few citizens that are paying very closely attention to this, and they want a say in these processes, not just with the city manager, but with the city attorney and any kind of leadership. They're ready for a change and a positive change.
So do you think that the citizens are going to have some involvement there?
I think so. There's a process, and so they're looking at an outside firm and looking for candidates, and you'll kind of see the similar thing that happened in Palm Bay unfold, where their applications will be put probably public, like you see with the board members, and we'll just keep following it.
Yeah, I think we need to do as citizens, we need to, talk to them, whoever it is, in whatever public forum that we have the ability to ask them questions. We need to show up and ask questions, and we need someone. In my opinion, we need someone who will communicate to the citizens, because the complaint we had about the previous one was that he wouldn't talk to anyone.
But
He
that's what
wouldn't-
you have the propaganda officer for.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Well,
that's what she's for. She's supposed to help
you want propaganda,
spread the
go to
propaganda or the
yeah.
information. And
Yeah.
so they didn't need him to talk. And we do have more information about the propaganda officer coming up. We're going to let you know about that in coming series. But that's it for Titusville as of right now. As Titusville turns, we'll have more for you next week. So Chris, where is the video? So everyone's asking now, still, where's the video? Now, it's been over 2 months, and from what I understand, this is at the discretion of the police department. And this video of the shooting of the young man back, 2 months ago
It
in
was
February?
February 7th. Yeah, February 7th. So it's been over 2
Not a
months
peep
now.
from the police department.
In all of our police-involved shootings, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or FDLE, assumes the criminal investigation centered around the officer-involved shooting. This provides an independent investigation to maintain the highest level of integrity. FDLE will then provide their findings to our state attorney's office for their review to determine if there are any criminal charges that may or may not be filed on our officers. It is then that the Titusville Police Department's Professional Standards Division is responsible for conducting an internal affairs investigation to determine if any of our officers violated any of our policies and procedures. This incident is truly a tragedy. Anytime we deal with the loss of life, it is tragic for the family, our community, and our law enforcement officers. The evening of this incident and the next day, members of our staff and I were in touch with Mr. Charles's family, to include his mother. There, we explained that upon the completion of this investigation, we would be available to share these results with the family before they were made public. This is all the information that we can release at this time. We do not anticipate releasing any other information until the conclusion of FDLE's investigation, which could be in approximately 4 to 6 weeks. Our 2 officers are currently on administrative leave, pending the results of both investigations. Thank you.
I think it doesn't look good, because if they were able to clear the officers in an easy way, in a very clear, easy way, they would have done it already. So it's the longer it goes on, the worse it is for the officers and the police department here. So I think it would help if they just released the video, so then everyone can see and you can just move on. I mean, what's the video? What is the state going to tell you that's going to change your mind about what you see in the video?
Right. I mean, you would think that if, in many instances, that the videos are immediately released.
Yeah, lots of time.
I mean, you would have cleared up a lot of problems. I mean, what's going on? Why do we not have the video?
It almost seems like another stalling tactic, just like we're seeing with the 17,000 emails and many other cases in the city of Titusville. And so all it's doing is it's perpetuating people's concerns and speculation, and they wonder why there's no trust. And it's this right here, because you're not being transparent. You're withholding emails, now you're withholding a video footage. I mean, what's the deal here? It's been well over the time frame that has been mentioned repeatedly. They continue to use it's an active investigation. Well, how long does an investigation take?
Right, and the thing about it is that I mean, is correlation between the investigation? I mean, there's some videos that have been put out, and you see that from the legal point of view. I think it's at the discretion of the city, is it
It
not,
is, yeah.
to be able to release that or
I mean, we've
not?
seen it across Florida. There's plenty of times the police release the video almost immediately, and most of the time when you see that, it's when it's to vindicate the police officer. So
Right.
when it drags on, you're thinking, and the last time this happened too, where it was the officer's fault. It drug on for months before they released the video, and once again, that was not very. It was not good for that officer, and that officer actually eventually got sentenced
Five
to,
years
yeah,
probation.
5 years probation over that shooting. So it's not looking good.
I just think that this is a clown show. I just do. I just think it's a clown show. Why the people, the great people of Titusville and the honorable police officers on the staff put up with this nonsense, it's just beyond me. This is an absolute clown show. Show me where I'm wrong with that, Stale.
No. Do.
I mean, it's just an absolute, I mean, it's like some kind of a TV show where you just can't get a straight answer from people. And if you're honest, just tell the truth. How hard is that? How
Not hard.
hard is it just to tell the truth?
Not hard. Not hard.
It
Just release
just
a video.
amazes me that we're in a city where this is the issue, and we'll see what happens. I think that the one way to get it though is through a public records request, right? And if you are a citizen, I would go and do a public records request to the police department and say, we need that video now. Go and do it. You have the right to do it as a citizen, and put the pressure on TPD to get that video out so that we can get this behind the citizens of Titusville.
You know, it could, because the chief actually already went out and said in one video and almost described what happened.
Right.
So what's the difference between that and seeing the actual video?
Unless
I
it's,
know, right? Sorry,
well,
I'm just getting upset about it too. But
well, it just doesn't make any sense to me. This is just a clown show where you just get to the point where you can't get straight answers from people. They go round and round in circles. They don't tell you the truth. This is just nonsense. And I think that the people of Titusville deserve better than this. And welcome to the Commish Report for this week. And I'm joined by the Commish, Katie Delaney, the County Commissioner of District 1. And Katie, what a night it was on Tuesday. I don't know what to say. If I had not have been there myself, I wouldn't have believed it. It's just really interesting. Just kind of walk us through what you saw happening. And first of all, you have the issue with embeds, which is the North Brevard development zone. That is okay. So there was a question as to whether or not District 1 should surrender embeds for the benefit of the firefighters. And Commissioner Atkinson so kindly helped you to see that District 1 should do this, but she didn't have anything from her district.
Right.
What did you see happening there?
You know, it's unfortunate. It seems like politics was at play. And when something as serious as funding our fire department is on the table, I believe that the county commission as a whole, all of us should have done the right thing, and everybody should have given up their CRAs if that is truly what the intention was, because that had $12+ million. That would have put $12+ million on the table, and that would have gotten us almost to the number we need on the general fund side to get our fire department a really good contract.
You know, has this ever been done where other commissioners from other districts decided a financial decision for another particular district?
Typically, this does not happen. Typically, commissioners have enough respect for one another that they stay within their district when it comes to this type of stuff. The North Brevard Economic Development Zone is something that was made for District 1 for the time of when the space shuttle program shut down. And Titusville, Port St. John, really the whole district was decimated because the jobs were gone. And people went from making six figures to zero overnight in some cases. And I remember during that time, you know, there were whole streets with plywood on windows, and foreclosures were everywhere. You could buy a house in District 1 for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 that now probably goes for $400,000 or $500,000. So, I mean, it just, at the time, I think it was definitely something that was necessary. Something needed to happen to help boost the economy in District 1. Some people say that, North Brevard is doing great now. So why do we need that, those general fund dollars coming to District 1? And my argument to that is every other district has money going to their blighted areas, to their redevelopment projects, to their economic development. And so why should District 1 be the only one who doesn't have something like that?
Now, you're not the only one. Channel 6 just recently put out a report that asked that same question. So you asked that of the other commissioners there that night, and it was crickets, and there was some pushback from Commissioner Goodson.
Again, I asked that question, Commissioner Atkinson, Commissioner Goodson, are you going to tell the public, are you willing to put your CRAs on the table to fund our firefighters?
No comment.
So that's a no.
It's not no, it's a no comment.
Well, then,
The chairman said that we'll discuss it at a later date, did he not?
is he my boss? No. We
I
are
will
all
assume-
duly elected here. Thank you.
Well, do you understand English?
Yes, I do
Okay,
understand
did you
English.
hear what he said?
And I'm
All right.
asking you a question.
And I told you. It
Okay.
will be discussed later, at a later time.
We had a motion and a second. Clerk will call the roll.
Displayed any concern for the firefighters up to this point.
Right.
Up to this point, they have displayed none, zero, nada, and actually, Commissioner Atkinson had worked against him. So what do you think is going to happen here? And you talked to the firefighters afterwards. Some of them came up to you. They saw right through this. They saw what this was. It's just a political ploy.
Right.
And they don't even think that they're going to get to 3 million. Do you think that they're going to get to 3 million?
I hope so. I'm going to do, if this does happen with embeds, because right now what they did was the commission voted 3-2 for to go to legislative intent to get rid of the funding, or put the funding towards the fire department instead of to embeds. But we'll see. I mean, things happen, and there was nothing that night that said absolutely this money has to go to the firefighters.
Well, they are very skeptical about it. I talked to several of them afterwards. They don't think that this is going to happen, and they just thought it was just a political ploy.
They've been promised these things in the past, and it's never come to fruition. Now, if this does go through, and if this continues on this path, that the North Brevard Economic Development Zone does get defunded, well, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that, that money goes to the fire department, because, that's what it was intended to do, supposedly, from that vote. But we'll see.
So now you were there, and so you take the position. The commission and government talks over the heads of people constantly.
Right.
Like there are people who have asked me and asked us about things that we say on the show to simplify it. Tell us what are you talking about. A lot of people didn't know what embed stood
Right.
for, and see, so you try to simplify this for people a lot in what you're trying to do as commission.
Right. Exactly. And so sometimes when I ask these questions on the dais, it's because I've gotten these questions from my constituents. And yes, I know the answers to a lot of them. But I just felt like if there is enough interest that people are reaching out and asking me these questions, then there have got to be other people out there who are thinking the same things, and who don't necessarily know all the lingo and all the things that we're talking about. And I feel like it's my job as commissioner to be that bridge between the government and the citizens, so that they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And also, this way, if they more fully understand what we're doing, it gives them a better shot of contributing substance when they come and they tell us their ideas, and they tell us the things that maybe they don't like something we're doing. Maybe
Right.
they do like something that we're doing. So this, I feel like, is helping bridge that gap.
Do you think that there's developed a governmental class that's just so far removed above the citizens, and
Absolutely.
they're totally disconnected from them?
Right.
They don't seem to understand what's happening here.
Right.
They don't seem to understand why you were elected and why the people like you the way that they do. They love you. And they seem to not understand that. I mean, some of the articles I've read and things that people have said, they seem to just be totally It kind of reminds me of what's happening with Trump in some of the ways.
Right.
People just seem totally disconnected from reality. I mean, do you see that, or am I wrong?
You know, a lot of the naysayers, they're from outside of my district, and so they don't get the blood, sweat, and tears that I've put into my community. And people here know me. They know me in District 1, and they elected me because they know me. They elected me because they know that I care about them, and that I'm going to do everything in my power to stay true to my word.
And, it's good to see your emotion behind it. I am thankful to see a politician that actually shows some concern for people.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have seen politicians, Katie, that'll sit up and look you straight in the eye and lie to your face and show no concern whatsoever.
Oh, and worse, they sit there and stare at you like you're not even there and say, "Next."
Right. And that's just bothering. Don't lose your concern and your emotion for people, that
Thank you.
passion for people, because that's why the people elected you. The other thing is the office and the Taj Mahal, is what we call it, that Rita Pritchett put together. Now, you were trying to actually get out of that Taj Mahal.
Yes.
And so they were constructing an office in the tower downtown.
Yes.
And so how's that going?
So, I'll give you some backstory here. When I was campaigning, one of the things that I didn't realize was an issue until I started knocking on doors was the office that I'm currently in right now, on US 1. That building at Tom Statham Park used to be a community building that people would rent on a pretty regular basis. And they would use it for church services, for baby showers, birthday parties, weddings, all sorts of things. And when my predecessor decided to use that building for their office, people were not happy about that.
Which is now the Taj Mahal.
We jokingly
I've
call
been
it that.
in this building and it looks like the Taj Mahal of government building. But anyway,
And so it was one of my campaign promises that I am going to give that building back to the public. And so when I was out looking for, okay, where am I going to have an office now? The rent was extremely high out in the general economy. So I asked the county, I said, is there any space possibly in the 6-story building? Because that traditionally is where the commissioner's office has been in the past. And so while the first floor office that used to be Truman Scarborough's office and Robin Fisher's office, it's currently occupied, there was some space on the fourth floor that the state's attorney let me have some of his space. And so what I decided to do, thankfully he let me have some of that space. And so we had to put a wall up and, move some things around, and it all was looking great. And then when I was talking with the county staff, I asked them, what would this look like as far as, how much money would need to be spent to renovate this space? They told me somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot of money. But, when rent was anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 a month, I was like, at least we're renovating a county space.
which would have been a cost saving measure.
For sure. And the Tom Statham Park location could go out back to the public and be revenue generating again for the county. So it was, a really good thing. Well, time went on and they started doing the construction and whatnot. And I, asked them, what's this looking like? Are you guys figuring out more of a solid number on what this is going to cost? At that time, they told me $18,000. So that was.
This was when? This was
Probably
early.
the end of January,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah. So, and it was with the county's trying to standardize. So they're trying to use the same paint, the same flooring, so that all the offices, all the county building looks the same. I was like, okay, that's a little, on the higher end, but at least it's okay. Then I go in to do my final walkthrough with the county staff. I asked them again. I was like, okay, so we're done. So what's the final number? That's where I became very frustrated. Somehow that 18,000 number jumped up to 68,000. And I was shocked, to say the least.
So did they explain how?
So they said basically that they got their invoices in, and it was a lot more than they thought it was going to be, and staff time and all these different things. It just got me thinking about, I've been talking about the procurement process and how the capital projects and what that is looking like in our county, and all this waste of money.
Do we have a breakdown of what that was, what the budget was as far as labor and cost?
Oh yeah, there's I mean, because there was flooring, they had to put walls up. They put a small kitchenette in just so that, you know, we'd have space for a refrigerator and a sink, soundproofing and things between the state's attorney and my office, because the state's attorney
Legal issues.
deal with, you know, legal cases and whatnot. I was shocked, to say the least. Somehow, which I'm still trying to figure out answers on this, the $68,000 number turned into $90-something thousand.
So what time was that? So they told you that 68 when?
Around the end of February.
And from February to April,
Right.
it grew?
Yes.
How? It was a project was basically finished.
That's what I'm trying to find out, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, because I am so frustrated, because it's not like we can pull it all out and get the money back and all of that. It's spent, it's done. And, you know, it's very frustrating, because my office is not the only thing that this happens with.
So it's the same thing with government, man. I mean, when people know that the government, they're contracting with the government, everything goes up, right?
Right.
And so do you think that there's something, so how do you, how does the price increase in 2 months' time and
Right.
there's no work being done?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't understand that.
They just told me that invoices came in. And I'm like, I don't understand why you don't go out, get a quote for something, the job gets done, and you get the final. And when these quotes come back, they're supposed to be a not to exceed quote. And so that's the way that this business is supposed to be done. So honestly, I don't even know what to believe anymore as far as the why behind all of this. All I know is that I'm going to be coming up with some policies that hopefully I'll get board support on, to make sure that something like this never happens again. Because we need to tighten up our procurement process for all of our capital projects. Because I really feel like this is the cash cow. This is where the waste is.
It's just, hey,
How does it go from 18,000 to 90-something thousand? I don't understand.
it's government. That's why.
And not just that, but nobody thought to let me know. Nobody thought to say, hey, Commissioner Delaney, you know, this is what this is going to cost.
Yeah,
Even though I asked them
It's
over and over again.
sounds like there was a feeding frenzy, Katie, and they were too stuffed to let you know about it.
Right.
So you're going to keep us updated on what you find out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the other thing is that there's a budget meeting coming up this coming Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Right.
And so the citizens can attend this budget meeting?
Yes.
And what is this about?
So this is now our 4th budget meeting for this year. And basically it is for the departments to come and bring their budget to the commission. And that way we can hear from the different departments about, you know, how much money they're going to be needing this year. And but this is a really great time for the citizens to, number one, get informed about how much money, you know, the departments are asking for. And 2, it's a great time for the citizens to give input. So unfortunately, I've been trying to get the other commissioners to do public comment before and after the meeting, so that people don't have to sit through the whole thing, because they're kind of long. But unfortunately, the only public comment is at the end. So if you are wanting to come and give your public comment, I would watch it from the comfort of your own home on YouTube. Wait till it gets to, you know,
Public
towards the
comment.
middle or the end, and then come, and, you know, that way you don't have to sit in that room for, you know, 4 or 5 hours.
So is this going to go a long ways in establishing what the budget is going to be?
Yes, for sure.
All right. So that's it. And one last thing, the Taj Mahal is going to be handed back to the citizens.
Yes,
though. And
yes.
when is that? Do you know when that's going to occur?
Hopefully within, you know, you never know with how fast things go, but hopefully within the month, we're hoping to move into the 6-story building within the next week and a half. And so they're going to, get the Tom Statham Park building back to one big open room so that people can rent that and enjoy it again.
Hey, for you who are wanting to do weddings, and we had church there before, it's much better than it's ever been before. Thank you, Miss Pritchett. It's the Taj Mahal of government buildings. So that's going to happen, and so we look forward to that. Thank you, Commish, for joining us on this Commish Report, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you again next time for the Commish Report. And that brings us to our kudos of the week, and we have for our kudos this week, Thad Altman. Well, this is surprising because Thad, you used to be one of the good old boys. I hope that you've changed your colors. This week you stood with Katie Delaney at Tuesday's County Commission meeting. You were one of the only commissioners that had some semblance of sense. Thank you, Thad Altman, and for that, you get our kudos of the week. And also for our school board superintendent, Mark Rendell. Mark, you followed the law. And I know that there's a lot of criticism of you following the law, but you did exactly what the Florida statutes told you should happen. And you stood up and you had courage and you did what needed to be done by not renewing the contract of the teacher in this situation in Satellite Beach. So kudos to you, Mark Rendell. And we give kudos to these two men because there are not a lot of people who have spines today. And we want to recognize those who have had spines, who actually have strong spines and stand up for what's right at the time that they do that. Kudos to Thad Altman and Mark Rendell. And that brings us to our Brevard News poll for the week. The question is, how do you see the role of government employees? Now, this is really interesting, Katie. It tells you a lot about a lot of things. And so the options were servant, career, or both. And 52% said servant. I'm a little surprised. But this is Brevard County. You had 9% said career. It's really encouraging to see that. The other side of it, though, is that 39% said both. And so what do you think of those numbers?
Well, I'm happy that career wasn't number one.
I am so happy to see that career was not number one.
Yeah.
I mean, because it says that, because what you're talking about here is how people see government.
Right.
Right? And so to say that it's not a career, it's probably a good thing that people see that that's not something that you should be doing with government, right, Stell?
Right. I think that this is a service to your community. You're serving your community and in these roles. And I personally don't believe that it should ever become a career. This is why you have career politicians and why people
Correct.
believe in term limits. And I do believe that people should be compensated for their time. But what we've seen in a lot of our research and investigations, public record polls, is that a lot of the people on the top are getting bloated salaries.
Correct.
And I believe that money is the root of all evil and greed is the root of all evil. And so that's where you see corruption start to fester. And I believe it is a servant position. And we should want to serve our community. I can't tell you how many years that I have just strictly volunteered to give back to my community. I think every person and their family should want to work with their community, collaborate, and give back in some way.
You would think that would be the case, but the attitude toward government has changed. So this to me is like letting my chickens run around in my yard when I know that there's raccoons running around. The more food that you feed government, the money, you're just asking for more corruption.
That's the thing that I was going to point out, that, the government has just gotten way too big. And so it wouldn't be, a bad thing to see a efficiency program like Doge, something like that put through all the counties so that we can make sure, are all of these positions necessary? Right. What's the repayment to the public that we're getting for all these different positions within all levels of government, not just county, not city, all levels, because there's a lot of jobs out there in the private sector, and that's a much better situation. And it can help lower our taxes if we don't have, so much overhead. I mean, benefits alone is one of our biggest things as far as speaking for the county. One of the largest pots of money we have is to pay for people's benefits. So,
Yeah, excuse me. And I heard a lot of people say and comment here that you want to pay the market value. Well, when I saw that, really, honestly, it made me want to puke.
right,
You don't want market value in government. This is not this is not the private sector.
right,
If you want market value, go to the private sector.
right.
That is not what the government is for.
The whole thing about government jobs, why people wanted them was because of the consistency and for the retirement benefits. Because even though their day-to-day take-home money was a little less while they were working, they had that pension to look forward to after they had put in so many years. So that was always the draw to a government job. And so this idea that they need market value salaries plus the retirement for the rest of their life, like that, it's too much.
And here's the issue is I don't think still that a lot of people see it. The more you pay government officials, the higher your taxes. I mean, there's what is Titusville has raised taxes now 8 of the last 9 years.
Right.
I mean, there's a correlation with that, right? And the higher you pay the salaries, the more your taxes are going to increase.
Right. It's like when the initiative was put on the ballot for the county commissioner salaries. I voted no on that, and I went on the news and talked about how people should vote no on that.
And they were trying to double it, right?
Right.
And so it's just a real issue, and I don't think that the founding fathers ever wanted government to be what it's becoming, where you would actually see it as a career. They saw servant leaders coming into government, using your talents in government, and then going back to your job.
Right.
But this has become a career all the way up and down the line, and it's killing the American citizens. And I just go back to what Ronald Reagan said: the bigger the government, the less your freedoms. I mean, it's just pretty simple. It's just not complicated. The bigger the government you have, the more employees, the more career government employees, the less freedom you will have. It's just so simple, and it's just simple arithmetic. That's going to be the case. And so it's just really interesting seeing that 52% of you agreed with our stance on that, and 39% kind of said, well, maybe both. I don't know. 39%? Just one thing before we leave. My wife worked as a teacher, and it was really interesting when she retired and I retired. I worked in the private sector for FedEx. She worked 29 years, I worked 29 years. And I was shocked that FedEx actually paid much more than she got. And that's really as it should be. And I think that that's a good thing. You should not be rewarded for being a career government official. It's just going to breed corruption. Still, I'll give you the last word on it.
Whenever I go to a candidate and I ask them, why are you running for office? It better not be about money. It better be about, because I want to make my community a better place. I want a future for my kids. It better be that my community asked me to run. And so when I look at this situation surrounding money, I think that if you put people above all else and what is right, not being right, but what is right, then your community will be better off for it.
Agreed. Thank you for joining us on this segment, and I hope that you enjoyed going over the results of this poll. It really means a lot about how we're going to live with what we understand government to be. Welcome to the Palm Bay Report. My name is Kevin Jeffrey, your moderator, and joining me is Ruth Kaufhold from Palm Bay. And Ruth, a lot going on in Palm Bay, and you actually are a part of it. In your neighborhood, you are experiencing some rezoning going on in your own neighborhood.
That's right. That's right. 2 years ago, Centerpoint Church wanted to sell some of their land to a developer who wanted to put in 192 apartments. And we were able to say no rezoning for that. We can't have, you have to have an in and an out of a subdivision or whatever. No rezoning because right now we're in gridlock on Malabar Road every morning from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. I don't even leave my house
And the way this
before 9 a.m. because Emerson and Malabar Road are gridlocked I mean, they're all the way to 95.
You're
But
already
now,
packed like sardines.
we're already packed like sardines. So now they reworked that whole deal with Centerpoint Church, and now um, the Price Family Homes wants to put in 26 new single-family homes, which usually means you have a minimum of 72 cars. You have 2 cars for every household at minimum. So we cannot have more cars running throughout our neighborhood because of all the building that has already happened between COVID and now. So we have people running up and down streets that are 20 years old. We have no street lamps. The infrastructure's not good. Some of our residents still are on septic, and we can't switch to septic because the infrastructure is bad. Yet, we have people trying to apply for more permits to put more homes in. And these builders don't care about the residents. They don't, because if you put a house in and the elevation is next, if the house is next to a current resident, you have elevation of 6 to 8 feet higher than the current resident. Where's that water going to go?
It's coming right toward your neighbor.
And do they
So-
care? No, they don't care.
So this is an interesting thing because you found out about this rezoning how?
I received a letter from Price Family Homes on Friday. Some of my neighbors has not received their letter yet. I've been checking around, and I said, what do you guys want to do? We don't want this either. They tried it 2 years ago, and I still have all the posters and all the stuff we did to say no to city council.
So the issue is under SB 1118, which is the bill that's up in the state legislature right now.
Right,
They could bypass all of this. You wouldn't get a letter.
right.
The city wouldn't know about it. They don't have to consult the county. They will run roughshod over every single neighborhood.
Right. This is
So-
the home realty people, the builders association. All these places are trying to, silence the citizens.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're
And
trying to
it's-
silence. They already took away one of our opportunities to speak. So Palm Bay used to hear the citizens before the meeting start with anything that was current or on their mind at that point in time, and then at the end. Well, they took away that last citizens
Well,
input.
what was funny about it is we had people that came on to Brevard News and commented, well, you don't want them to be there until way early in the morning. Well, if they can't handle that, it's
Right.
not the job for them.
Right,
Go find another job.
right.
The,
And
the citizens' responsibility or the citizens' right to be able to hear or be heard is important.
right. It's our right. It's our First Amendment right to petition and to be heard and to speak at any venue. So, and they took away the fact that we can't have any input on the consent agenda even.
Yeah.
So we have to take our 3 minutes and kind of condense it all in to 3 minutes of all the things that we are doing our due diligence on by working the agenda beforehand.
So what do you think is going to happen with this rezoning? Do you think there's a process they're going to have to go through? They're going to have to listen to the citizens. Do you think that they have a chance of getting this through?
All the citizens have been telling them for at least 2 years, no more rezoning. And some of the candidates who are new to the council campaigned on it.
Yeah, but it's almost like
Yeah,
they're
so when they get to the council, things start to change.
it's funny
you
how
know,
that happens, isn't it?
Huh. So maybe promises made, promises failed in the city of Palm Bay, because right now, if they're going to allow this application to go through, and then people go, well, what's the big deal about, 26 homes or 23 homes? And I'm like, it's not, we are an established subdivision, 25 years been there. I haven't been there that long, but my neighbors have.
Mhm.
We don't have streetlights, or we have narrow streets. We don't have anything, and we've never asked really for anything. We just make it known that, hey, if you're going to be doing something over here, we've been here just as long. So the priorities that you have are wrong. You have, in fact, they have this Sunterra 2,000 homes going on at 195 and I-95 and Heritage Parkway. Where's that going? And where's that infrastructure? And do the residents of City of Palm Bay get screwed over basically?
Well, this is a real battle, and this is being played out all across Florida.
All
I mean,
across
and
Florida.
so the question is, and so this SB 1118, you might want to call this guy, Stan McLean, who is sponsoring this, and tell the legislators up there to stop it.
Right.
You know, these are actually supposed to be conservative legislators, which makes me wonder. I mean, it seems like they're in bed with the developers.
The
And his number
Pac-Man.
is 352-732-1249. They are trying to ram this through. And if they do, they're going to bypass the city, they're going to bypass the county, and developers can come into any neighborhood and put homes and developments wherever they desire.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing thing. It doesn't seem constitutional.
Yeah, one of
but we'll
the
see.
responses I got from the mayor one time was like, you have to stop letting them do this. Well, ma'am, it's capitalism. I'm like,
Well, it's not capitalism if you have to go in and get the zoning changed.
right,
I mean, you have neighbors or developments where these people had the presumption that this is how this zoning was going to be.
correct.
And if you want to buy property, buy it in a place where you don't have to get it rezoned. The other thing is that there is an agreement between Palm Bay and ICE. So
Yes.
they've reached an agreement on
Yes,
this.
Palm Bay
and-
approved an ICE agreement allowing officers to enforce immigration detainers. So while they're not gonna, the police department isn't gonna be actively doing anything, but if they find someone, they will contact ICE as opposed to like the mayor of Boston, for example. They're
Right.
not gonna cooperate with ICE at all. Well, I don't think we want Tom Homan down in here,
Yeah.
because he's making stuff happen.
Right.
And we have had immigrants or illegal aliens from Haiti on the shores of Florida.
Right.
And they have been in Brevard County.
Right.
A friend of mine had somebody in her backyard even, and she had to run them off. But the point is that just because we live in the free state of Florida doesn't mean the other people aren't trying to, monopolize
And-
on all that and be illegal aliens here without being noticed.
And
Okay.
the free state of Florida is not as free as we're finding out.
Exactly.
A lot
Exactly
of
right.
some of the stuff that you see going on in Tallahassee. The last thing is the EMS
Yep.
is now they are trying to take the non-emergency services and they're doing a contract with Coastal.
Yes, coastal ambulance systems will handle transportation to the hospitals for calls that are going to be assessed as non-life threatening, meaning that when you call 911 and it has in your Palm Bay resident, you might see a difference between how your call is handled. You're going to get more questions about, is there a life-threatening situation versus is just a transport, or is it a non-emergency? So there's going to be a lot more questions when you call 911. And
But who determines whether this is life-threatening? I mean,
I don't know
how do you
that. I
know
don't,
whether? I mean, how do you know whether it's
yeah,
life-threatening?
when
Maybe
you
it's-
call, yeah, they do have some things. If you go to the Palm Bayer, Tom Guam has outlined some of the situations that they're talking about: triage, initial response, on-scene assessment, coastal ambulance service if they need to dispatch someone from that service. So all of these things is answered if you go out to Tom Guam's public service announcement that he did.
So you better be very careful about what you say to the 911 operator when you call, because
Right.
they're going to assess whether or not to send an emergency personnel out there or not. And if you get
Right.
it wrong, you're going to
Right.
get the non-emergency service, which is coastal ambulance.
Right. And right now, I don't know, but the fact that we have shortages everywhere of first responders. We have sheriff's office, city of Palm Bay, any city in Brevard County, and our fire and our, EMS. You're not going to get responses quickly. All right? You're not. If you call the police department, you better be able to protect yourself for anything that you think is happening. If someone is, a thief or something is entering your property, 15-minute responses right now.
Wow.
From the police department. And sheriff says you better make sure you can protect yourself.
Yeah, and that's the rule of thumb. So there's a lot going on in Palm Bay. How can people find out more about this coastal ambulance? So you've got the Palm Bay report that
I
Mr.
would say,
Guam does an excellent job.
yeah,
on
he
that
is so
Palm
good.
Bay.
But I think you can go to the Brevard County EMS site and look
try
that
that out.
up on their website, and they would give you the ABCs of what's happening.
All right, Ruth Kofhol with the Palm Bay Report. Thank you for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that brings us to my 2 cents. The establishment politicians showed their predictable hand this past week. If you didn't know it, 3 of the 5 commissioners voted to defund the North Brevard Economic Development Zone. Embeds was started to spur development in North Brevard. It quickly became a slush fund for the cabal. Check out the Embeds minutes at the clerk of court's office and you'll find that this is true. The question supposedly was whether taking money for Embeds and using it for the firefighters seemed to be a noble thing, but on closer scrutiny, it's shown to be politics as usual. You have commissioners in other districts voting to remove funding from District 1. Let's be clear what this is. If the firefighters see the purported $3 million promised by the defunding of Embeds, it would be a drop in the bucket to what they need and certainly will not avert emergency Brevard County is under with the severe underfunding of the Brevard Fire and Rescue by many of your commissioners that are on the county commission right now. The Brevard Good Old Boys have lost control of District 1 county commission seat to a person who actually champions the people. Consequently, they have redirected their resources to the control of commissioners in other districts. A look at who contributed to the campaigns of the other commissioners remove any doubt about this. Delaney desired to use Embeds for what it was intended for, to enhance small businesses and redevelop Blythe in North Brevard. The Good Old Boys had no desire for that. Why? That would spur competition with them. And if you had any doubt, Tuesday's county commission meeting showed this to be the case. Former Brevard Clerk of Courts Scott Ellis acknowledged that Brevard County is not in a good place. The politicians are not operating on behalf of the people and are controlled by their handlers. They despise Katie Delaney because she is not controlled by them. She was not elected by their money, and she was not elected by their endorsements, and they don't like it. Look no further than Tuesday's county commission meeting as an example. And that's my 2 cents.